Unleash your voice on the Construction Life podcast community. Are you passionate about the world of construction, trades, and all things building related? The Construction Life podcast wants to hear from you. Leave us a review, share your thoughts, insights, and experiences on your favorite podcast channel. Your review fuels our mission to create engaging and informative content for the construction community. Your feedback is a mortar that holds our podcast together, so share your thoughts, rate us, and let the construction community know why The Construction Life is your go-to podcast. Visit our website and check out the over 400 tradespeople and construction professionals listed on our site. Check out www.theconstructionlife.com for additional content, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and valuable resources. Dive deeper into the construction world with articles, guest profiles, and more. Follow us on social at TCL_The Construction Life. Subscribe to our video channels on YouTube and Rumble. Check out our link tree and find exclusive discounts for listeners. The link is in the IG bio. Join the conversation on Facebook, the Construction Life community. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you guys in the studio. Angelo's back. You're here for the first time.
Good to be back.
Thank you.
When did you first hear about TCL?
I heard of the podcast through Angelo.
Through Angelo, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He put me onto it, and then I've been listening here and there. Been most recently listened to Jim Carrook.
Yeah, Jim Carrickstro. Yeah.
And previous to that, the Edinburgh Construction, the gentleman Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie was
That
great.
That really pulled at my heartstrings. Yeah. That one really got my attention. Not that the other stuff is not
good.
No.
It's just I like those shows. I like connecting with people, whether they're in Toronto here or they're halfway around the world. We all have the same problems, right?
We do. And Charlie bringing up the topic of mental health in construction was proof in the pudding that the problem is just not here in Toronto or the GTA or Canada. Like he's in Scotland.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they face the same issues, right? So I know you guys, Angelo, last time you were here was right before you launched your book.
Right. Yeah. It was about a year ago, and the book came out this past January. So
yeah.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster ever since. We were kind of chatting about the whole publishing journey and how people kind of look at you differently. And, it's kind of a neat thing to have on your resume. And
but I don't think anybody in construction judges anybody that writes a book if you are in construction.
No.
I'm talking about tradespeople in general.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll judge you in a negative way.
Probably the best commentary and feedback I've got were from tradespeople who have shared these thoughts on the human side and like the interpersonal side and the lack of it in the human experience in construction. That's probably the most feedback I've gotten for the book. So I think you earn a certain respect. Everything's so divisive these days. There's people who don't like it, the soft side, and like being the tough guy and don't like to talk about feelings. But
I haven't really met those individuals, but I guess I'm old enough to just walk away from those individuals if they start talking that kind of crap.
If they're not your people,
I just dismissed them, right?
Yeah.
But you guys are here because we wanted to do another episode of the new Tough, right? TNT, and I'm glad that you guys reached out and spoke to me about let's do this. And you've got some interesting segments that we want to talk about and discuss. So that's why we want to get started. But I do want to, if you guys want to just shout out to everybody who you guys are, and obviously your book as well too.
Sure. My name is Gianluca Pascale. I represent, head curator for the Constructors Guild, which is a new organization that I founded this past July to cater to the construction professionals in our industry. Individuals that are essentially want to do things differently. They're tired of the same old status quo that our industry is synonymous with, and they want to take themselves and put themselves in first position and surround themselves with like-minded individuals and grow, connect, build a community. So that's what I've founded in July. Prior to that, I owned and operated a construction management firm for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I published a book in September 2020, right in the thick of the pandemic, which is collaborative construction process. Yeah, Build Better Together. Available on Amazon, both in soft copy and ebook.
And then you're on IG, but you have the website too? No,
I don't have IG.
You don't have IG?
I got off IG. I had IG.
You're on LinkedIn.
Personal. I am on LinkedIn. They can find me at Gianluca Pascale.
Yeah.
Or they can also find the Constructors Guild on LinkedIn. Story about IG is that I actually reached out to a young lady out in Nigeria who still owns the Constructors Guild the way I want it, just all stuck together.
Okay.
I guess she started
handle, the IG handle.
The handle, and I guess she started a company, I think in 20. I don't even want to mention it. It doesn't matter, and it definitely looks like it has been used in many years. So I reached out to her. I have an IG for the previous company for CenterCon, and I sent her a very kind message, the only kind that one would want to receive, especially if you're if you're asking for something so precious. And let's see what she says.
Oh, you just did that recently?
Yeah, like a handful of days, maybe
wow.
2 days.
Yeah.
Tell them
You
the
don't ask, you
tagline.
don't get, right?
Tell them
Of
the
course.
tagline.
Oh, the tagline for the construction
Guild.
I love it. I love it, man. That's why.
I
It's
think
the
I
best
need to
part.
bring Angelo everywhere.
I'm
I
your
go.
hype man, buddy. I'm your
So
hype
the
man.
tagline for the Constructors Guild is a community for those who build them. Right?
It's a good line.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really
Listen.
encapsulates what it's all about.
A lot of people in the industry don't realize what they just built, what they just created today.
And a lot of people don't realize that they are not the only ones with struggles. And I'm not just talking about the mental health struggles, just any type of struggles or pain points or horror stories. And it does not have to be negative, right? You can also be surrounded with people that are experiencing tremendous success, and they are a source of inspiration. They can with their help, they can pull you up to the level that they're at, or it could be the other way around. You're the one walking in with the wisdom that somebody else is looking for, and you're a generous person. You're willing to offer it up, right?
That's what really kind of clicked with me when I first saw you and Jonathan doing the new Tough.
Yeah.
And was talking to Gianluca about what he's doing with community and support and just camaraderie, which is like is at the heart of the construction industry. But specifically this topic needs a lot of work, and I'm really glad we're here talking about it and you're doing what you're doing. So I also like when Gianluca introduces himself as a recovering construction company owner.
I didn't say that this time.
It's almost like we're at Construction Owners Anonymous. It's like, hi, I'm Gianluca, and I used to be a construction owner.
Yeah.
But do you guys see the industry changing? Has it changed?
In what sense?
I guess there's two perspectives. You can look at it this way. I guess the owners of companies and then the actual tradespeople themselves, right, doing the work. Have they evolved on both fronts? Are they embracing this, or are they just dismissing this? Are we still getting attached to the stigma? Just tough it out, man. Just work it out. It's not a problem.
To be clear, we're talking about the stigma of mental health.
Yeah, and we're talking about most people are talking about, we don't want to talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
it's not interested in having this on the job site. We're not interested in having this as a discussion. We you're a man, just listen, tough it out. Just figure out your problems and move on. Show up tomorrow, do the job.
I think
has that changed?
It's changing. It has not changed from my observations and my experience, both on the field and the office side. As much as people, even big corporations, want to say, "Oh, we're working on this and we've got initiatives." It's been a generational issue that's kind of compounded over time. I think we're going in the right direction, and to solve any problem or issue, it starts with awareness. But I still think we are in the awareness phase where people are just starting to have these conversations and be open to generally accept it. There's always going to be the exception on either end, but yeah, I think we're in the awareness phase kind of overall as an industry. My thoughts.
One of the scariest things that I see, and I know you brought it up in your points here that we were talking about, is the suicide rate with tradespeople.
Yeah.
It's
baffling. I
don't know if there's any other industries that have the same amount of numbers for the males of trades.
No, and that's one thing that came up was it's 4 times greater than the national average construction in the industry. And even if you look at it within the industry, I just have my notes here. That's why I brought my laptop. But it's 5 times greater than all other construction fatalities combined. Yeah. So, electrocution, falling, whatever, this confined space.
5 times.
5 times. When you combine every other fatality in construction, the rate of suicide within construction work is 5 times.
Do we know what's going on?
We really need to sit back and allow that math to really make sense, because that's enormous. And although, real quick, if we can just backtrack a bit.
Totally.
I concur with Angelo's statement that the industry is changing. However, I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, under the bus, but some, not all, of what's out there is more like smoke and mirrors than it is truly about caring about their people.
I would
just to hit the markers.
Yeah.
Just check the box. I think there's good people out there, a lot of good people, but in a company, especially a bigger company, to say the answer to these issues is to implement an EAP program, like an employee assistance program. That's not enough. Like saying, hey guys, here's a resource, use it if you can. You got to go out and touch the people and talk to and I understand you can't get everybody.
I just want to let people know that are you coming from big construction as well too? Because Angelo, you came from big high-rise construction, right? So you guys are both coming from big construction.
I see.
Yeah. So it's just like, and that's where I'm assuming a lot of that suicidal rate is coming from, right? I don't know if it's, or it's a blanket over the entire.
Good question.
I mean, construction in general, you've got custom resi, you've got high rise, you got industrial, you got commercials. So it's like you've got a lot
pipeline.
of
Like there's a lot. I think it is kind of a catch-all in construction. You'd have to,
from what I've read as well.
Yeah.
It's just, they just mentioned construction industry.
but that's probably highlights the point that there hasn't been a lot of detailed research on this topic.
But I know the last time that we spoke about is that if someone did unfortunately take their life or they got hurt, they're replaced so quickly on that job site. Like you're literally a number replaced by another number now, but you're not addressing the person and everybody that's in that person's life.
Yeah. Even the crew on site.
The crew themselves and what they experience, right?
Like regardless of whether it was like say it was a suicide or a workplace injury, or the guy just went home one day and he didn't come back the next day, that's going to mess you up. Like having somebody there one day and not the next. And it's not like a layoff, fine. But like the fact, so, you know,
There's been a loss of life.
Yeah.
Someone's
it leaves ripple
spirit
effects.
is no longer with you.
Yeah.
That's impactful. And I have not heard, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I've never heard, or at least made it, some people making it prevalent, that there is a grief counseling of sorts brought on site. You know, if you had a work partner that took their life tonight,
It's going to affect you.
right? And you come back tomorrow and Joe or Stacy's no longer with part of the crew. I don't care who you are. It's going to affect you. And that stuff just doesn't go away, right? It mixes in and it attaches to the inside of you with some other traumas that have been sitting there.
So like, I don't know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My brother worked for the Region Appeal. He was there for, I don't know, 25 years or so, 30 years. And he had a good friend that he also started at the same time. And I think it was about 10 years ago that he was sent to a job site to go look at something, and he discovers a coworker hung himself.
Ooh.
And still to this day, he's getting counseling for it. He's still treating it. It affected him so much because he discovered the person.
Yeah.
And this person went to work, started the workday, and then I guess planned this.
Yeah.
And, and that's what happened.
That's terrible.
But then he was the person who discovered him.
Yeah.
And so you're right. You can't
unsee that stuff, man.
No.
You can't just erase it from your memory. Yeah.
Without getting off topic, I promise. But just a quick story. I have a young lad, probably just shy of my age, who goes to the gym with me. Became very good friends because we're kind of in that same time zone where we both get to the gym. And getting to know him, he shared with me that his job is with Toronto's, with the TTC. And part of his job is to go clean up the mess after people take their own lives.
Ooh.
Well,
I fucking imagine.
I quickly realized, and I discovered when someone told me, because I have a friend that works for the Toronto Transit Commission, and they're in the bellies of the subways, you know, the lack of subway that we have, but they're in the bellies there. And he quickly told me whenever there's a delay, it's not majority of the time, it's not a mechanical delay.
Right.
It's a loss of life delay.
Yeah.
Someone took their own life and has stopped.
Yeah.
The
Well,
train
and how
from
often
moving.
is that? Like, I wouldn't
It's
even guess
constant.
multiple times a
Yeah,
week.
it's constant.
I've got friends in police, a lot of them at 52 Division. I said, not uncommon that at least once a week.
Yeah.
When you hear anything, and I'm not saying that we should publicize it I'm not saying about a big deal, but it should be talked about openly. Maybe not on TV because then people put a spin on it.
But I don't know, one thing that popped in my head before and was interesting, like when we talk about the stats and stuff, like you look at safety overall in the construction industry, like it's come leaps and bounds in the decades, right? Sure. With recording, near misses and paperwork and the safety triangle and all that stuff. Imagine if we took the same efforts, and as a result of that, the number of injuries and fatalities have come down to the point where some people might argue it's too safe, but I don't think you can have that argument. But regardless, imagine if we put the same effort and dollars and time into not only physical health, like hard hats, PPE, barriers, safe work procedures, but mental health, like how to deal with something.
Is it because mental health is considered invisible?
It's not tangible.
Yes.
You're right. I think that's probably.
But I guess my question is, what is the formal government's position on cause and effect of when someone does take their life. What are the systems, so to speak, in play? What is the site super supposed to do? What are the other trades supposed to do? Like, do you guys know offhand what those MTO, not MTO, sorry, administrative labor, like what happens? Like, I just don't get it. If it would happen on my job site, it's just like,
What
do you do?
Are we talking about somebody taking their life on site?
yeah.
I've never come across that, but I
You
would
figure that would be public knowledge.
I feel like it
this
would be
is-
classified as a workplace injury, like almost, you know what I mean? Like same as it's a workplace fatality, regardless
So
of
there's an
the,
investigation. There should be an investigation,
Should be.
inquiry about everybody who found what happened.
the same procedure. Ministry of Labor comes in.
Yeah.
And,
if it happened on site, there's definitely an investigation.
Yeah.
But going back to the stats and to the fact that how much progress we've made with health and safety, it is surprising to me that the stats that both Angelo and I, doing a bit of homework before coming here today, we came up with all different types of stats. There's nothing consistent. And that's very concerning to me, because if our industry is not able to pinpoint a specific number, or at the very least a very close approximation, it means that it confirms to me that we're not putting the effort into it to learn and to actually fix the problem, not treat the solution or the symptom. That's what we're doing right now.
I feel like, it's kind of an indication to a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not upset that we didn't get to do my intro, guys, but we'll just keep
What intro?
I'm joking.
What intro?
I'm joking. This is the intro. It's a bigger issue of like part of what I'm trying to do is kind of twofold. One is improving awareness and understanding of construction in the general population, because people don't know, don't care, don't give a shit. I don't know about construction and construction workers. The looks I get, it's funny, because there's the whole stigma around construction workers, right? I was donating blood the other week. By the way, if anybody's eligible to donate, you should, because they're always at like all-time lows. Thank you. Good. And I was talking to the lady. She's putting the needle in my arm, and it's just small talk. What do you do? I work in construction. I was dressed like this, nice shoes. And she's like, you don't look like a construction worker. I'm like, well, and I'm a little bit curious, what does that mean? So you're not wearing boots. No, well, on behalf of the broader construction sector, yes. But I was like, we need to get rid of this stigma in people's minds that construction is dirty and everybody's a degenerate and has a substance abuse problem. Because I think when you think construction, not us because we're in the industry, but other people, like if you're not in construction, you're listening to this right now, close your eyes and imagine what a construction worker looks like. You're probably going to see an old white guy in a hard hat smoking a cigarette outside of a concrete truck. But that's not the industry, man. That's a small piece of it. And people, like I said, either they just don't know or it's not worth talking about, but sometimes I take it personally, yes. I don't know. Maybe I'm too sensitive,
Those
man.
stats on the suicides, do you guys have age? Are we fair to say that it's mostly younger trades?
Again,
I don't think there's that level of detail in the stuff I found.
I have only come across one. It was from 39 to 52 was the one window. But again,
so it's interesting. That's the segment of the industry currently right now that has the biggest, the smallest amount in that age bracket.
Mm-hmm. But it's still the biggest.
There's more coming in, the younger ones that would be mid-20s, early 30s. And then there's the ones that are getting out, which are above 52, get into retirement.
So essentially, it's the bottom portion of Gen X and most of a good chunk of Gen.
The ones that have learned, have become apprentice or have become journey or become bosses now. The ones that have already established themselves, those are the ones that are taking their lives before they can actually build a future to get to become the older tradesperson. They're the ones that are taking.
Says a lot
lives.
about our industry.
Well, I talk about this a lot with friends, and my wife we were just talking about the other night, like the amount of friends I know who have experienced or are going through mental health issues in our age demographic. Like I call it an elder millennial because I just snuck in there right at the beginning. But yeah, and I don't know if it's just something that always existed but didn't have a label, so people didn't know what was going on, or maybe we're just more fucked up than other generations. I don't know. But something like to the point you brought up, why is it more in this age group? That brings up an interesting point to me.
I'm thinking, well, is it mostly coming from personal lives? Or is it coming from their professional lives? Are they taking the amount of toll and stress coming from the professional side or from the personal? My thought process is what I'm getting from speaking to people. It's mostly personal. I think failed marriages are happening there. I think child custody battles are happening there. Splits of assets are happening there. I'm talking about tradesmen. I think the masculinity coming out of a tradesman is being torn down to the point where this tradesperson, this tradesman can't take it. So then they decide that suicide's their option. This is what I'm not a doctor. I'm not everything. I don't know.
It's never, sorry, go ahead, Gianluca. No, it's like anything. It's never from one source. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just everything compounding on top of each other.
But is it more personal or professional?
See, I feel in just piggybacking on what you just shared with us, guaranteed there's a lot of external sources that are making things bad for these individuals. But the way I see it, and I'm not trying to pin the blame all on construction, but the way we operate sites in general and the way we agree to like unrealistic expectations and demands from our clients and work in high stress environments, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. We're the ones who pushes them over the edge. Now, if it were up to me, just because somebody's going through a divorce doesn't mean that I shouldn't care and I shouldn't give them, this individual, the time of day to listen to them and make them feel heard, right? It's very important.
It's more, I think you're right, both right, in that it's more like the personal life. There's just so much shit going on in the world. There's always so much turmoil. Everything's so divisive now.
There's still a brotherhood and a sisterhood on the job site. There's still like you still will get along with more people than not get along with people on a job site. So I think that the troubles will come from the home first, and then it just keeps on getting compounded on the job site. And then the opportunity to do what you want to really do is presented there because of the lack of safety on a not lack of safety, the opportunity.
Sure.
I'm not encouraging it. I'm just saying that it's that cliche of, I guess, a permanent solution for a temporary problem, right? But you're on a job site, you're on a certain floor, there's no safety rails. It's literally you're like one little bolt away from moving a safety rail and you could actually end all this, right? So at home you can't really do that. So I'm just wondering if that's what's going on. I don't know because you'll never know what's going on in someone's head and what they're thinking about or what they're going and construction in general. If they taught us anything, we do not share. We refuse to share. We refuse to speak to anybody else in fear of weakness and fear of all kinds of stuff.
Well, that was the question that came to mind is like, why are people afraid? Sorry, Gianluca.
No. I mean,
but it's what you just said. People are afraid that they're going to be judged and they're going to feel shame and they're going to be looked down upon for expressing vulnerability because there's that mentality and some notes I made here, and you mentioned them too, like unreasonable clients, tight timelines, budget constraints, physical demands to doing the work. And so if you're facing a deadline at work, and sometimes you just got to suck it up and get it done. But that doesn't always work. It might be a temporary fix, but if that becomes a prolonged, sustained thing, the pressure keeps building and building and building, and something's got to give.
Somebody's going to pop.
And it gets back to like what you mentioned in the beginning, how you were speaking with Edinburgh Construction and these people, it's not just a local thing. Of course not, because it's a people thing. It comes back to just being human. And as a human, you're just a bag of water with some bones and feelings and chemical reactions. That's what it is. And it's funny having I have 3 kids, one of which is a toddler now. And whenever I face a difficult situation at work and somebody's like flying off the handle, because it happens, sometimes you lose your shit. I'm like, I think of him as like a toddler, not in a bad way, but like my toddler doesn't know how to regulate his emotions. There's no filter. He just acts the way he feels. And that's how even I react sometimes. I did it this morning with my kids because they were eating breakfast and I lost my shit. But that's just part of being human, figuring out what's going on inside, sharing it with somebody, and just being there with people. And I think the biggest challenge when it comes to any industry, but especially construction, is providing that space and that environment where somebody can feel safe, opening up, dropping their guard, and being vulnerable. I hope that made sense.
It did make sense. It's just, let's look at it through the perspective of the bean counters now. So I'm just saying, you've got structures that are going up There's timelines on these structures. There's monies that are allocated at a certain point from the start date to the occupancy date, to the delivery dates, all that stuff. You've got all these moving parts that the bean counters, do they really want to stop that whole process and figure out what should we really do here? How much should we care? Because every day that we care is another day that we're losing profit and losing schedule, potential fines. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure, liquidated damages, yeah.
Prioritize mental well-being in construction with Connecteam. In the demanding world of construction, mental health is as crucial as the structural foundations we build. Addressing the unique challenges of construction workforce, Connecteam is here to elevate your team's mental well-being while optimizing efficiency on and off the job site. Why choose Connecteam for you and your employees? Streamline work processes to reduce stress and enhance focus. Foster open communication channels, creating a supportive and inclusive work environment. Provide real-time updates from the field through digital forums, promoting transparency and reducing uncertainty. Construction is tough, but mental health shouldn't be an afterthought. Connecteam isn't just a tool, it's a commitment to nurturing a resilient and empowered workforce in today's skilled tradesperson and the business they run and work for. Connecteam has a 14-day free trial. Check them out at www.connecteam.com and on IG at Connecteam app.
So my response to that, and there's no answer, but what's the cost of not stopping? And that's what you can't quantify. Because when you build an estimate, you don't build time. Actually, you do. If you're working hard, and you should anyways, if it's all nights and it's all 12 hours shifts, 7 days, you're going to burn the crew out. So you got to space things out and allow some time for breaks. You should be. But it doesn't always work like that, because you're right. If you're an accountant looking at it, it's just numbers and it's very black and white. But I have this talk at work a lot too, because there's always kind of the divide between accounting and operations and estimating. In accounting and estimating, it's, I would say, black and white, because you have drawings and specs, you have spreadsheets with numbers. In operations, when you're on site, it's just a world of gray, because you got to move and you got to flex and you got to, So anyway, sorry, go ahead, buddy.
When it comes to the cost of not doing so, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but before I even share, I got called, not called, but someone shared. I went to an event and I was a guest panelist. Someone came to speak to me and with utmost class said, you're a mix between optimism and pessimism. I said, explain the latter, right? And he did. He broke it down. I said, okay. I said, how about I reframe it for you? And I did. And he saw that my point was, I'm not pessimist. I'm just a realist. Yeah. So having said that, the cost of not investing in our people, specifically as it relates to mental health, we're about to find out. And how we're going to find out is plain and simple. Labor shortage that we're going through, that continues, and definitely the housing shortage. We've got 5.8 million homes to build by 2030.
So that doesn't make sense, does it? I saw you posted something about that.
I realize that, but just stick with me. Never mind the fact that it's...
Have we ever built 5.8 million homes in 7 years?
We're not even tracking the numbers to get even closer.
We should have a gauge if we want to look back to the 80s when it was a boom until the recession.
Mid-70s was the highest.
I know, but we should have it and look at it and go, if we weren't building it then, we're definitely going to build it today. Yeah. And we're not going to build it tomorrow. So then who's coming up with these numbers and presenting these as a guide?
I don't know, but they should all be fired, including the ones that actually tout it as being the numbers that are required. Don't tell me what's required. Talk to me about what's possible, right? And
those numbers are based on the amount of immigrants that are coming in?
Including everything, yes. And they've known this for quite a while. This is not surprising.
So the latest soundbite was 1.5 over 10 years. Now we actually need 5.8 over 7 years?
Yeah, but so I just got educated on this. It was 1.5 and went up to 3.5, but nobody was catching on to, in addition to.
Right? Like net new.
Yeah.
In addition to
so if you add all that up, we're at 5.8. I just read the article, and in multiple sources.
I want to go back to
real quick, if I may.
Go ahead.
So having said that, because I believe the state of our industry as it relates to mental health, it's hanging by a thread.
I agree.
Drug and alcohol addictions are, if not already, approaching epidemic proportions. So combine those two with the fact that we're still in my explanation, we are the industry is still bobbleheads. We agree to everything, no matter how ludicrous. I'm sure there is limits, but you understand that, I mentioned earlier, unrealistic expectations and demands. Now, combine all of that and open the floodgates to the shit ton of work that's going to come out by probably second to third quarter 2025, if not first quarter 26. Hopefully it's way sooner than that. But having said that, once all that comes out, who do you think's going to get tapped to build all this shit? We will. And who's going to lose their shit?
You're going to do more with less people and in an ecosystem and generation that's more fragile than ever. Like it's a concoction for a disaster.
It is. You can.
Am I wrong? Like, is that too alarmist?
No, you're not wrong.
It's 100% accurate what you just said.
But so I was going to go back to, if you're the bean counters and you prevent people from taking their lives, are you not becoming more efficient as a builder? Because now the workforce is working.
100%.
So isn't it in their best interest to watch out and pay attention to their employees, subs or what have you, everybody, to make sure that everybody is, you could have your problems, but you're being addressed.
Yeah.
Instead of ignored.
And acknowledging that sometimes you have to take a step back to take 3 steps forward.
Yeah.
And if you try and push to take that step, you might fall and not get back up, like literally and figuratively. You know what I mean? So,
but the competition we have in assimilating or adopting that mindset of, investing in people before proceeding, we compete. You're competing against profits. You're competing against, margins. You're competing against cap rates. These are all things that our industry are up against. You mentioned earlier, I forget how you framed it, but I'm going to reframe it. And part of the problem, if you want to go even further back, is the clients are not, most of the time, they're completely disorganized. Whoever C-suite was in charge of making decisions to spend budget money or to go ahead with projects, I've seen it done countless of times. They're either on vacation in the winter and they come back and they go, what do you mean we haven't done this? Let's fucking go. Wow. Or it's summertime, everybody at the cottage, and come back. They put the kids into school by early September. And after that, September is when the floodgates open. It's hurry up and finish it by Christmas. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's never going to stop unless we as an industry put our foot down and go, no, man, that's not how it's going to go. Let me explain to you how it's going to go. Because last time I checked, we're the ones who execute, not them. We've given away too much power.
Yeah.
But then we're also doing that in fear of employment. So we have our own, there's the stressors now.
But
we look at the rising cost of interest rates. And
the place that we're in for your podcast is built by, I use the word us because I'm speaking on behalf of the industry, whom I love very much. This was built by us. The highway I took to come here from Toronto was built by us, right? And the list could go on. I would like everybody in the industry to recognize the amount of power that we have, but we really don't. Because I go back to what I said earlier. I feel it's my observation that we've lost a lot of that power for the sake of getting a job and making money.
Yeah.
So we give it away.
So they're getting fear of either loss of employment or fear of being stigmatized. There's all kinds of fears that are going on top of this person that's working in this industry. And how are you supposed to cope with that? These weren't things that their other generations, their parents, their fathers went through?
I think everybody went through stuff, man. You look at even the boomers, maybe a little bit before them, but they lived through a fucking world war. Like literally, a lot of the people who came and built the construction industry, what it is now, were immigrants from other countries who emigrated to Canada or North America to provide a better life for their family.
Here's a point. Are we at a point where it's not life and death yet? Life or death, I mean. Are we at a point where, as a tradesperson today, they can find another job? They can find other employment somewhere else. They can be replaced. If their body is gone, they're not a part of that project, and they've taken their life, so they just get replaced, right? So are we not at a point, that boomer generation, that was life or death? You went in, you were a soldier, you were front lines, you were every day you woke up, you had a chance that this could be your last. We're not at that point yet. Are we at that point yet?
I don't think so. That's a little bit extreme, I think. I don't know. Yes? Oh, you disagree? Feel free to disagree, buddy.
I think we're there.
Yeah.
Because, and if we're not fully there, we'll be there within the next 7 years. because in 7 years, the boomers are gone. And we're going to be losing 2 boomers for every 1 person that we bring in. So you can't fill up the bucket.
No, you can't. And it goes back to the numbers thing. Like you mentioned, people throw out, oh, we need this many homes to accommodate immigration and population growth. Who's going to do it? Construction workers are going to build those homes.
Unless you're
construction workers?
Unless you're the city of Toronto, who just announced $36 billion 5-project deal that they're going to be the public builder on.
Okay, so here's something that I actually wanted to bring up because I thought it was absolutely ridiculous that a friend of mine brought up, and he listens to this show. City of Toronto, that's in a $900 million deficit when the new mayor took over, authorized the use of putting their logo on crack pipes to be given out to people. And they spent $33,000 on those crack pipes.
For what purpose?
They wanted their logo on the crack pipes to give it to users.
For safe injection,
$33,000 of taxpayers' dollars were used to put the logo of Toronto on these crack pipes.
Yeah. I get the whole thing, how people are going to do it anyways, provide a safe space for them so they don't OD and all that. Like I get that.
But that goes through a series of approvals. And at what point do you stop being a human being and start understanding that, like you guys said earlier, you're not addressing the problem. You're masking it somehow. So it's like, this has to go through a series of people. And do all these people just blind? They're not understanding the cause and effect of this?
Yeah.
Maybe they're just going along with it because their boss thought it was a good idea or something. Who knows? Because they're afraid of.
You guys saw San Francisco
maybe
clean
their core
themselves
values
up?
are not aligned.
Did you guys see San Francisco clean themselves up?
Yeah, almost over what looked like overnight.
Where did everybody go?
I don't know.
You're going to tell us, I think.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that one day all the homeless were removed.
Yeah.
All the garbage was removed. All the damaged vehicles were removed. And all this fencing was installed with gates at intersections.
Yeah.
But it's all clean now, but it's all fenced up now. And I'm like, okay, so where did the people go?
That's a very good question.
It happened here in Toronto a few years back. Well, no, maybe about a decade ago when they cleared out over by the east side, the beaches there, when they cleared out all the homeless people there because they wanted to start making way for the bridges and they started doing construction, right?
Yeah.
But where did everybody go?
No, that's a good point. I don't know. Where did they go?
I don't know. Like you brought up Toronto. You brought up like money being spent and stuff, and I just don't think Toronto is the wisest city in Canada when it comes to expenditures.
And even the ideas that we have. I mean, listen, we mentioned that we started somewhere at the beginning. We mentioned the LRT, right? I don't know if it was before going online or not. Nevertheless, the LRT. Actually, Angelo and I were having that conversation as we came in. Not long ago, a couple of months ago, it was announced that no longer December 23, it's December 24 when they're going to allegedly start up the LRT, 13 years after the fact. And a month prior to announcing that, roughly, I'm just going by the vague memory that I have of those particular details, they re-upped the CEO for Metrolinx on his contract.
You realize you're benefiting somebody who's not doing their job well.
Yeah. And you realize that Metrolinx is at arm's length to the government. It's of
course it is
an extension of the government. So as I brought up to Angelo, which company out there, like real life company, will keep a CEO that's shin tanking?
They wouldn't.
Then why do we do it in the public sector?
But that's politics, right? So now you've got a lot of wasted money and then you got money not being spent properly. We're talking about having systems in play, I guess, to address mental health of tradespeople. But I don't think enough money is being spent or awareness or proper education.
Yeah.
And so now you have all these projects, these great projects. Like how many people, I'd like to know how many people took their own lives working on the LRT. That's a cost factor. That should be a part of that cost factor. Because there's probably people did take their lives.
For sure.
Working on that thing.
That number of people in the years, like you said, 12, 13, it's
a long time. It was never supposed to be that way.
But you never hear about stuff like that, eh?
It's like the subway. There's going to be a delay. Buses are available.
Yeah.
That's all you hear on the speaker system. You don't want to tell people someone took their life. And on construction site, I guess it's the same thing. You don't want to tell the rest of the tradespeople someone took their life.
Yeah.
That's causing more mental health. more mental issues, right?
Because people know what's going on, especially on a site where you're basically a family, even if it's a site of a couple hundred people on a big site. Word goes around fast. And if you don't tell them the truth, they're going to start rumors anyways. So you might as well tell people the truth. Because if you don't, their brains are going to start connecting different dots. And that might be a good segue into something I kind of wanted to bring up is like, what are some actionable and practical things the industry or even just people can do? Because the industry is just comprised of people. These types of situations to address these issues.
Not taking okay for an answer.
Yeah.
How many tradespeople you speak to and you ask them how you doing? What's the go-to answer?
That everybody says, how you doing? Good, how are you? Fine, thanks. It's automatic. But like you said, look somebody in the eye and say, nobody, how are you doing? And it reminds me of a story, if I can share a personal anecdote here.
By all means.
Because I've, everybody deals with shit in their life. But there was one particular point in my life where I was really struggling with stuff, and it was a compounding factor, like you were saying, personal life, work life, everything. So it was when I was at Black & Mac, I was in estimating, and estimating is just generally a pressure cooker. If you guys have ever closed a job, like a big job, multi-million-dollar job, where if you make a mistake, like you lose all the profit and it wipes it out. Like it's high pressure shit. And we were pursuing this high pressure job. I was managing the estimating division, and we were basically told you got to get this job. So I had that. I was used to it because that's what you get when you get construction. But at home, we were going through personal stuff. We had fertility issues with our third kid. First two was bang, bang. And I was like, okay, everything's good. Let's take it easy. We wanted to have a third. We're like, let's take a little break. And then when we decided it was time, it took years, went through miscarriages. It really fucked everybody up. My wife, me, our relationship. So this was happening all at the same time. And I thought, you know what? Let's renovate our bathroom at home.
Oh my God.
Just because we're crazy. So it was a powder room. It was a little project. But again, I wasn't aware of all this stuff as I am now. And I figured I was just, living life. I was doing my best. I was powering through. So while all this was going on, there was a guy at work, Tim Peters. I don't know if he's going to see this podcast. I hope he does. But he's division manager at Black & Mac. An amazing human being. And every day during this period of my life, he would come by my desk and say, how are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm fine. Thanks. And he'd say, okay. He'd go back to his office. Next day, he'd come by. How are you doing? I'm okay. And then it got to a point where I was like, Tim, what the fuck, buddy? And he goes, I know something's going on. And he's like, when you're ready to talk about it, come see me. And I was like, fuck. And he knew before I did. Okay. So I ended up having basically what I would consider a mini mentee B, which is a mental breakdown. I was doing my bathroom. I forget what I was. It was some stupid little task. I was mudding a corner. I had to replace a piece of drywall, and the tape lifted up or something like that. And it was just this little thing, and it made me snap. I fucking lost it. Just started, I'm not even ashamed to say it. I started crying. It was almost like an out-of-body experience, which looking back, it was probably some sort of anxiety attack or some sort of break. Luckily, my wife was there, and she kind of realized something was going on, and, we dealt with it. Took therapy and all that stuff. But I later had this conversation with Tim because I took a couple of days off work. I went back, and he shared his story and his experience and different tradespeople that he encountered. He was a sheet metal worker, and this is what he does. He goes, I know what to look out for. So all that story, I'm not telling it for pity. I'm sharing it for validation for anybody, because everybody has similar experiences, whether you know it or not. Some people are more aware of what's going on in their bodies and how they're handling different experiences. But the best thing you can do for anybody is just be there. Actually show care and compassion and empathy for another human being. And they might be perfectly fine, but they might be struggling. And you might, by saying that, saying, no, man, how are you actually doing? Looking them in the eye and caring, that might make the difference between this guy. Maybe he was on his way to go hang himself on site, but you had that conversation.
There's something that could be said. There has to be said about holding space. It's not hard to do, but it's precious in its own way. Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing that story, Angelo. It actually even ties into what Manny brought up earlier on when you mentioned that I got a feeling that a lot of it is coming from the outside. Angelo, you kind of gave us the roadmap of how that experience went. A lot of it was from the outside. A lot of it came from family, right?
Yeah.
And from home. But although the straw that broke the camel back was at home renovating your own bathroom.
That was my fault.
Right, but imagine, just going back to what we shared earlier, imagine the pressures that our industry dish out and what damage that does to individuals that are already struggling.
Yeah.
They're on the edge of it already. And now you're not. Did Tim go through something? That's why he saw it in you?
Yeah.
So he was aware.
He was aware, he experienced it, and he saw it in other people. He's just one of those guys who are just really in tune with people, and he's able to connect. I think it's a natural gift for some people. Myself, it wasn't, and I've worked at it, and now I take pride in the fact, like anywhere I work, people will come in and have probably what would be annoying conversations to other people. But when they come in and shut my door and sit down, I'm like, okay, regardless of what I'm doing, unless it's important, I'll tell them, okay, you can come back, but I'll make time for them just to listen, because some people just want to say what's going on. And like you said, holding space. A lot of people don't want a solution. They could probably figure it out on their own. They just want to get it off their chest and be heard. And maybe the solution comes after, but you just got to be there for them.
Along with holding space, what's equally powerful is getting the feeling that you're understood. You're both listened to first, but getting the feeling that you're understood moves the needle tremendously.
Well, you're not. The person's not looking for some sort of resolution from you.
No.
They don't want you to give them their thoughts. They just want to. They want you, I guess, to listen.
Yeah,
That's
to be
all.
there. To be there.
Simple as
to
that.
validate,
Yeah.
to validate their feelings and their experience. I think that it comes out of validation.
Let me ask you this, guys. Maximize your construction success with Connecteam. In the world of construction, success hinges not just on materials, but on the mindset and time management. We know how many skills you have on the job site, but we both know we need to focus on the business. To truly build your business, you need to be at the forefront of strategy, not lost in poor time management of everyday tasks. Ever feel bogged down by the minutia, leaving little room for the big picture? Connecteam is your solution, liberating your mindset and time for what truly matters. Why choose Connecteam? Seamlessly track employee hours, freeing your mental bandwidth. Empower your team with clear task management, fostering a proactive mindset. Stay in the loop with real-time updates from the field through digital forms and checklists. Prepare for today's tasks and plan for tomorrow's scope. Say goodbye to the manual grind. Embrace a new mindset of efficiency and growth. Connecteam isn't just a platform, it's a catalyst for change, aligning your business with the expectations of this year and beyond. Connecteam has a 14-day free trial. Check out Connecteam at www.connecteam.com and on IG at Connecteam app. Do you think most people are not there? Because Tim is probably rare. I think he's a smaller percentage of people that will actually continuously ask you over and over. I think that number is smaller than the people who wouldn't do anything about it. But do you think the people who don't do anything about it in fear of when they go through something, is someone going to be there to listen to them? So why should I help somebody else if I know one day I might go through this and someone might not care for me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I'm
a
just
very real
asking.
possibility, man. I'm sure there's been cases where people have gone and said, look, I'm having a really hard time with this. Be like, so what? Life sucks. Get over it. And sometimes if it's a little trivial thing, you can maybe dismiss it. But, but what's trivial to one person might not be to another.
Well, look at you. You're doing the tiling, and all of a sudden something snapped, and it just didn't work out. That could be to a tile setter. That could be nothing. That's just whatever. I can solve that problem in a heartbeat. It's done. But that was the trigger. That's what snapped in you. So everybody's different. But I just get the sense that a lot of rubbernecking goes on, and then you just keep on moving along. Yeah, nobody's going to stop and actually help the person.
That's a great analogy.
I think
that's how it is. That's human too.
I think in a lot of exactly. I forget what there's a name for it. It's not tragedy of the commons. It's but it's like when there's a lot of people around and somebody's in distress, everybody's like, oh, somebody else is going to help them.
That mindset, exactly.
Yeah, there's lots of people here. Yeah. I'm not a bad person, but I just don't have time. He'll be fine. Somebody else is going to help him. I think maybe that's a little bit
job site. Yeah. That's a trade. Yeah.
But I think getting back to what because you raised a really good point, because I think there's a spectrum. There's the people like Tim who know and care, are in tune at one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, there's the people that know and don't care because they're not good people. And there's some of those guys around, and gals. But most people are in a band in the middle where they either don't recognize it because they're not trained and they're not in tune, or they just recognize it but don't know what to do with the situation or the information.
Or they're also afraid of it. because they're probably dealing with some of their own
exactly.
issues.
And
seeing a coworker or just someone on their site experiencing mental health difficulties is a trigger to themselves as well. Enough for them to freeze and not be able to react.
Right.
Well, and that's not wrong.
Because it puts you into that state, fight, flight, or freeze. When you encounter that shit, some people run away, some people freeze, other people jump in and help. But it's that middle band where most people, there might be studies, there might not be, but I would hazard to say there's 10% on this side, 10% on this side, 80% in the middle. You can train that. You can provide, how to, what do they call it? Mental health first aid, or how to recognize when somebody's going through a crisis. Because there's characteristics. If you're like, absenteeism goes up, if your performance goes down, if you're, late for work or stuff changes, Do you
guys find it odd that mental health conversations are never had at the beginning of anybody's construction career? They're always had when they've had a few years of construction in their career. Why can't we have it at the start of their career? No different than PPE, WMIS, no different than any kind of safety procedures, right? Or even training. You're training a certain trade for a certain task. That all happens at the very beginning. Everything all happens at the very beginning. So why can't we include mental health, conversation, actions, details?
We can and we should. There's no reason not to. Yeah, no, we don't. But there's no reason not to.
Shouldn't that be part of WMIS?
Yeah. It's like I was saying before. We've put such an emphasis and made such a huge impact on physical safety and in terms of like injury, loss of life, loss of property, all that stuff. But what about the mental side of things? To me, health is health. Mental health, physical health. It's safety, health and safety. Yeah. Mental safety is the same thing. But we're not providing those tools, and we're not naturally taught them. They don't even cover it.
You bring up a good point. It's health and safety. It should actually be called health and mental and safety.
Yeah. Or broaden the umbrella of health and safety to include physical and mental.
Shouldn't the word mental be there?
I don't think it needs to be.
It's part of
personally.
Health?
But it's
it is part of health.
Most definitely. Yeah. That most definitely. But do I think that we need to highlight the word mental? I personally don't think so. And this is from someone who's a huge proponent of mental health in the industry. You're
right, but it should be at a point where when people think health and safety, it's implied that you mean mental. Yeah. But
it's the whole shooting.
But maybe right now, while we're in this kind of transition in the awareness phase, maybe you do need to highlight it and include mental to get people think that 80% band or whatever it is in the middle. Maybe not. I don't know.
I feel that one of the things that's going well for us when it comes to that is going to be the youth that are coming up coming up the ranks. Mm-hmm. They won't take this shit. And
they're not taking this shit.
They won't take this shit, but the unfortunate thing, I think, they're going to leave the industry.
Yeah. That's what I mean, yeah.
That's their definition of not taking the shit.
There is right, but there is a distinct possibility. However, because of their mindset, it's important for us to start paying attention, because I don't know if anybody else is looking at it, but if we look around, look at the demographics, right? The old guard in 7 years are gone. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, if we're up to me, I'd give them a paycheck right now and get things.
Now, will they be gone, or will they be forced to stay a little bit longer because of the way the economy is right now?
I hope not, because in 7 years there should be more than enough time that has elapsed to put us back.
I think they got to stay
in their late 60s, early 70s, and they're still swinging a hammer. They're still on the job site. I've had plenty of conversations where the younger generation has a hard time even seeing that, because they know those individuals are hurting physically from doing that job, but they're forced to do that job. We've seen it in other sectors. So you're seeing a lot of seniors getting jobs at grocery stores because they can't cover their expenses that they're carrying at that age. We're seeing it already. So tradespeople, they're not at that age. They're not going to go start a new career at that point. They're not all Colonel Sanders and coming up with a new recipe and starting a career. They're going to stay swinging the hammer and doing the job. It's going to be slower. The tasks are going to get done, but they're making money to survive.
Right. I'd like to clarify one point. the old guard that I'm referring to is the ones in C-suite positions in construction.
Yeah,
companies.
that's different. Yeah.
Those are the ones that I feel that are in the way for many things.
Yeah.
Especially as it relates to mental health. The ones that are still swinging a hammer at 60 or 70, listen, if you're capable of doing it, all the power to you. But right now, they've got every right to stay in the industry because there ain't nobody. We're in a deficit, and it's about to get worse.
I'm selfish, and I want them to stay in the industry because I want them to educate the younger industry.
One of the things that we should be doing
selfishness.
is going around and getting to know these individuals, maybe through the help of your community, our community in as a whole, encourage people to email in, write in, and to give us some names of some old school guys and gals that are in the industry.
To get them on the mic and just talk to them.
And bring them in either on the mic or maybe like a town hall of sorts where you bring them in and you bring them in front of students. You know, picture an auditorium at George Brown. Have them talk.
It's a great idea. It's just coordinating. We just got to figure out how to do it.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, just on this topic, because like we're both pretty passionate about this, and Gianluca actually started a town hall with kind of LinkedIn creators on this topic of, well, it's kind of sponsored by the Constructors Guild, but we've been focusing on guidance and mentorship within the construction industry. Because to me, there's 3 pieces that are going to get us through the shitstorm that's going to be the next 10 years. Talent pipeline's number 1. You got to have the people coming up who are going to be the next leaders, the next foremen, the next project managers, the next vice presidents. And they're in short supply because construction hasn't done a very good job in promoting itself. You got to have the senior people there to mentor them and guide them into those roles. Because a lot of smart people, like I took engineering, I met a lot of architects in construction, in proper construction, like on the constructor side. Very smart, but you need the experience. You can't have anything without the experience. But the key to making the whole solution work, you can't just smash the 2 together and expect everything to be fine. It's the knowledge transfer piece. How do you bridge that gap between the old school construction and the next generation? And I know that's a different topic. We're not so much mental health.
No. It's not a different topic. It's totally a part of that topic. It's exactly it's a component, a part of it. It's 100%. It's just, you've got people that have, for lack of a better word, survived construction for a lengthy period of time. When I say lengthy, I'm talking about 30 plus 40 years. So they obviously have been doing something right for them to be physically and mentally working in this industry for that long and achieving. And that generation provided for their family, built their nest egg, and now they've got a world of knowledge that they're not handing it off to as many people. But now with digital components like this and yourselves and other pages and all kinds of stuff, we can give them the vehicle to share that knowledge. It just doesn't matter of getting them out and sitting them and getting them to do that and share that. My concern is that the younger generation that's coming up, I don't think the majority of them are staying. I don't think it. As much as they love it and they're passionate, I think they're looking at construction as a stepping stone because of a lot of the factors that are attached to this. I think that they tap out at a certain, I think maybe 10 or 15 year career.
Okay.
And they start thinking, like they might be thinking, I'm going to do this because I don't want to be swinging the hammer when I'm 60.
Yeah.
So they're getting out. So if they're getting, that's why there's that hole in the middle. So my question to you guys was to figure out, we know what the tradesperson of today looks like that's in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. We know what that person looks like. You can look at their face, and we've seen those pictures of soldiers that the day they started as a soldier through basic boot camp, and then the day that after they came back from war, and the face that has aged decades instead of years, right?
Yep.
And that's the same thing in a tradesperson that is in their 60s because they've been through 40 years of plus construction. I want to know what that young person is going to look like, but I can't visualize them staying as long as today's generation.
I never looked at it that way. It makes me think of the first event the inaugural event for Constructors Guild was in July 25th. So leading up to it, I had to look for spaces and, catering, all that jazz. And one of the spaces was downtown off of Queen Street. And I made an appointment, showed up.
Queen and where?
Oh, goodness.
Talking about the west or the east side?
West side.
Okay.
Not as west as over here, like Queen and Dufferin.
Okay.
A little bit east of there. Anyways, I called the gentleman who I was speaking to. He says, I'm tied up, but I'm going to send you one of our people, and she'll show you around. And if you have any questions, you can either ask her to call me and we'll figure it out. Never needed to ask him any questions. The young lady was just outstanding. She took really good care of me. And as she was showing me the space, she asked me what it was for. And I gave her the spiel of the Constructors Guild and what it was all about, the community, and leading up to kind of explaining what the event was going to look and feel like. And she shared with me that she has 2 friends that work in the construction industry, both in their 20s. I believe she said around 23 to 25. And both of them are already complaining that they're aching and that they're tired.
That's not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad, man. We can't repeat it. You know what my father told me when I told him I wanted to get into construction? It's the first time they've ever answered me in English. At home, it's Italian the whole time. You're fucking crazy, is what he said.
I think we're all crazy, buddy. That's what makes it fun.
Probably the 3 words that he first learned in English.
More than likely. Yeah. But you know what? It's tattooed in my mind. And it's just something that I hear my father saying that when I hear stories like that. And I go, what are we doing wrong? How can we fix it so that these kids don't repeat some of the same mistakes? Knowledge gap is, knowledge transfer is definitely one of them. But
they're not even getting to that point to get
that's
the knowledge.
Just the thing.
Yeah.
Because you could inject all that knowledge into them. In the back of their head is, I'm out of this career. Whether that's contributing to some of the mental health issues that they hear about or the physical issues that they hear about, like they're getting out sooner than these ones that are staying longer.
Yeah.
General statement as it relates to the construction industry, not picking on any companies. What's your thoughts on how the industry onboards people? Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking like the big guy level, because these guys got a good game when it comes to onboarding. At least I think they do. But just in general, the construction industry, what's your feeling? Do we do a good job for onboarding or do we suck at it?
I think there's been a lot of focus on the technical side of it. Like if you're in the office, you're a PM or an estimator, you're trained on the tools and how to manage a job or how to do an estimate. If you're in the trades, you're taught how to use the tools and safe work procedures and all that. But it's the human side of stuff that it's not trained. And like that was one thing that popped into mind when you were explaining the whole mentorship process, how you have 20, 30 years in your career. Yeah, you know how the shortcuts on how to, do drywall or mud this or paint that or put this pipe together. But there's other parts to it too, right? And one thing that comes to mind, and one thing I want to touch on, I know we're running short on time, but it's coping mechanisms, right? Because we're not taught how to deal with this stuff. And I love, for people that know me, like I love analogies. And sometimes I try too hard to create analogy. But I thought of this for coping mechanisms. I'm a mechanical guy, so picture a steam system, okay? Piping, you got a steam boiler, flash tanks, condensate traps, all this stuff. What happens when one of those devices fail? Say something happens in your life, like you're having an issue at home.
I love Lucy episode.
Is it?
The chocolate factory episode.
With the conveyor belt and the faster conveyor belt. So say something happens and part of that steam system fails. There's a slug of condensate that's building up. It's blocking the steam. Steam boiler's still rocking. It's doing its job.
Works really well when it's going well.
Yeah.
But then
as soon as something happens, say the condensate trap fails, there's a slug of condensate. The pressure builds. What happens? Catastrophic failure. Yeah. Unless you put a safety valve in, right? Mm. And the safety valve in this analogy is a coping mechanism, because in everybody's life, inevitably shit happens. People get sick, loved ones die, your wife wants to leave you, your kids, you find them with a bag of weed in his drawer or something, whatever, stuff happens. How do you deal with it? Some people have healthy coping mechanisms, exercise, meditation, walking on the beach, whatever. A lot of people resort to bad ones, drugs, alcohol. The fact that you brought it up before about drug and alcohol, substance abuse in construction, to me, that's signs of an underlying mental health issue. They don't know how to cope with their problems, so they result to this other stuff.
They always turn to vice. Could be a number of vices.
Gambling.
You go to any, like, I'm only picking big condos because it's evident that there's a lot of people that work on these sites. So go there around 3 and wait 15 minutes when they kick out, right? And follow these individuals. Where do they go? LCBO, beer store, a bar, or a pot shop. Some home. I'm not going to.
But the majority, and I agree with you, they'll go to
They've
a
got a pit
place
stop
before they get home, where it brings it back to me thinking that, does it start from the personal life, and then before they can go back and confront their personal life, they have to mask it or some sort.
So imagine if we had to play on Angelo's share. It reminds me of my buddy Wayne out in St. John, New Brunswick. He took over. He's done very well for himself. And in the last couple of years, handful of years at the very most, he took up an HVAC company with him and a friend. They're doing very well. They turned it completely around, put a lot of systems in place, a lot of procedures in place. But with doing so, they kept the good people. And not that they fired anyone, they kept everybody. But the ones that didn't automatically align to the culture that they wanted to bring in the company left on their own. And that's what good culture does. It'll purge whoever is not fit for you. But having said that, one of the things that he wants, him and his partner want to do for their staff, is to educate them, give them opportunities to grow as individuals. So this would be a good place to insert something like that. But the example I'll give that my buddy Wayne does is that he brought in financial literacy to all of his employees. He said to me, his plan,
It's goal driven.
He wants to make a millionaire out of 50 people.
It's goal driven. You give them a task,
and he's on his way to do it.
That doesn't happen in high rise, though.
Right. So, but it can happen. If
I go back to the bean counters,
right. Well, maybe they just need to be brought in a dark
certain line
alley.
of people will become millionaires. A certain line of people below will not become millionaires by purpose. That's what I have a problem with, right?
And that's unfortunate because our industry has the potential of making everybody millionaires.
For sure, it
And
should.
The additional reality is that there's so much out there to make everybody fat. But the greed that's in not only in our industry, but in society in general, in the whole world, it's what fucks things up.
I go back to the coping mechanisms. I like it. The thing is that the older senior tradesperson, they had coping mechanisms that were not necessarily instant, but effective. They just plowed through and took care of things, right? This younger generation coming up is so bombarded by the insane amount of incorrect coping mechanisms. And when I talk about that, I mean social media and how they're being educated a certain way of how they should be spoken to, or like how their work environment should be, or what they should be making at a certain age, or where they should be at their accomplishment levels, all kinds of stuff like that. This is none of this shit that we were ever considering at that point, at that age. Yeah. We were never taught that. So I think that they're being bombarded by incorrect coping mechanisms, which goes back to my argument about they're going to get out sooner because they will be told you should be a millionaire. You started as a tradesperson, you should be making 100K out of the gate. 5 years, you should be making $500,000. Less than 10 years, you'd be $1 million. Then you know, like they'll be like going great, but then all of a sudden, out of the gate happens, 5 years happens, 10 years happens, and they haven't accomplished all these things. And now, in the back of their mind, they're dealing with lack of accomplishments, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned a good, like, social media. Like, to me, that's just like, and it's shows you how things are in a perfect world, and it always makes you want more. And whatever you accomplish, like I have this stuff in my own personal life, because you go online and you find somebody who's doing way better than you.
Which is all BS.
It's all BS, exactly. But it's the perception of it, and perception is reality, right? So I think that is the main problem of it, social media, and just being constantly bombarded by all this shit out there that is really meaningless. And I say this is kind of funny because you're on IG too, I'm on IG, but it's like I try and keep things a little bit real. But I think that is a big problem too, is social media. And just,
in all fairness, I think today's tradesperson has to deal with a lot more shit than yesterday's tradesperson. I think so.
100%.
Like a lot more shit.
Yeah. Just the social media game is just, it's fucking overwhelming is what it is.
Back in the day, a tradesperson just had to prove their self-worth, their skill set, and they could almost learn that. If they can take the razzing and they can just be a part of the community and prove that they're passionate enough to learn and swing the hammer, they'll make it. They'll survive. They'll get work. They'll provide. They'll get on other job sites and meet more people. Today, there's way too much shit for these young tradespeople. And I go back, that's contributing to them leaving. Unless they become the site super, unless they become some sort of executive level, unless they become promoting here and there, moving to a different city, unless those opportunities are presented to them.
Well, listen, and the optimist in me believes that if we take care of them with mentorship, with knowledge transfer, and with human skills, instead of one term that I completely dislike that our industry uses is soft skills. There's nothing soft in human skills or people skills, right? Equip them with those things and just give them the time of day, man. Acknowledge them, appreciate them. And you know what? The learning in here, although there's a huge knowledge transfer between the current guard or the people that are currently in the industry to the ones that are newcomers or our youth, the reality is that mentorship goes both ways. A lot of us can stand to learn a lot from these kids coming up.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's two ways, yeah.
But let me ask you, did you guys have a mentor?
In the industry?
Yeah.
Multiple. I'm extremely fortunate to have
You actively looked for one when you got started?
It just happened.
Okay.
And quite frankly,
you attracted it.
I have my father to thank. He positioned me with one, which leapfrogged into more, and I owe a lot to quite a few people.
That's good.
I think that's probably a topic for another show. But I wanted to add a quick comment. I think a lot of people struggle with that because if you read literature and you talk to people, it's like, oh, you got to have a mentor. You can't do anything without a mentor and sponsorship and all that. So people go out and seek that formal structure of a mentor who's going to change your life forever and tell you all this sage wisdom, and it's like you're being touched by God, which isn't the case, man. Because when I look back, some of the best people who shaped my career, I didn't even realize they were doing it at the time. But looking back, they were mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember one guy in particular too, Jim Allison, another shout out to another great guy, Jim. Jim and Tim, there's a theme there. But I remember he was explaining something to me, and I was listening because he was a really smart guy, and but I didn't fully sink in. But then I experienced it a couple months after or whatever, like on site. So he kind of prepped me for it, and then it happened. I said, holy shit, good thing I talked to Jim. But and I think that's what a good mentor-mentee relationship is. You don't even know what's happening. Because if you get into a formal structure and it's like, okay, you guys, you're going to meet once a month. You're going to sit down for an hour. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and look at each other? Being like,
No, it can't be
tell
forced.
me, Manny, tell me everything you know.
No, it doesn't.
I think
Yeah.
I think one of the quickest way to get to this is to have people understand that life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. So if you're a generous person, I'm not saying with money, like with your knowledge, you're sitting on an encyclopedia, let's say, of knowledge. I really would like to meet the person who wouldn't get a kick out of giving that and seeing somebody's face light up, or just somebody looking at you in bewilderment going, I can't believe you just shared all of this with me. I get that this type of shit gets my fucking rocks hard, man. You know? But I just it seems so simple to me, but it just seems that our industry is having quite the struggle implementing it.
How's the work from a person who's has mental challenges going on? Like their work is going to suffer too.
It suffers, man.
Their productivity is going to suffer. The scope is going to suffer. And then I guess you as their super is going to probably turn a blind eye to it, or just, will they bring it up?
They'll might get rid of them.
Which makes the mental health situation
exactly
even worse.
It happens, buddy. It happens. And and that's kind of one thing I wanted to bring up too, because you bring up a good point, and this is good for listeners too, is like signs if somebody's in a crisis. You mentioned a couple, like decreased productivity.
Yeah.
Like one day your best performer might be knocking it out of the park, and then he comes into work after a weekend and he's dragging his ass, and it becomes like a prolonged thing. Increased conflict among coworkers. I think everybody can relate to this. When shit's not going good at home, you're short-tempered, you snap on people at work or other people around you. Increased tardiness or absenteeism, we talked about that. Like, 4 perfectly good examples. If it's a day, fine, everybody has an off day. But if you notice that it's a trend, a lot of people might say, oh, something happened. Gianluca, he's not performing like he did before, get rid of him. Some people will pull you aside and be like, hey, buddy, what's going on? But I think it's more the former, the people that'll say, oh, not performing, see you later. Maybe I'm pessimistic, I don't know.
No, it does happen, because it just goes back to the evident lack of you got to say it, the lack of education on the topic.
So that just made me think of something that happened kind of interesting a few years back. there was a tradesperson. I didn't know that he was going through anything. He seemed like everything was fine. He didn't work for me. I know him through the industry. And something interesting happened is like, he was always picking my brain, getting my thoughts and wanted to just learn more about the industry and stuff like that, which is, I was more than welcome to just give up what I know and just share. Right. But at some point during those, like, he was already planning his next stage and his next step. And this is a lot of stuff that I was saying at the beginning of the pandemic, where I told a lot of the younger trades, don't overextend yourselves financially. Don't start looking at thinking there's lots of opportunity now and lots of work. Go buy every possible tool out there and all this other stuff, right? And he started speaking in that same kind of tone. He was trying to prepare and grow, but there was a huge financial commitment to it, right? For whatever reason, his wife got my number somehow. Well, obviously my number's out there and people can get a hold of me. She contacted me and she spoke to me and she said, listen, I need you. Don't let him know that I've spoken to you, but somehow can you let him know not to spend all this money because we don't have it right now. And I don't want to tell him that because he really wants to move forward in this industry, but he thinks he needs all these things to move forward in this industry. So the next time that I spoke to him, I didn't just blurt it out that way. I cradled it and I spoke to him in a different tone, saying, don't just go guns a-blazing and do this and buy this and get this ready and pick up this and all. Like, just start planning little things, little steps, and take incremental steps. And then she called me months later and she thanked me for that, because he started turning his thought process about spending all this family money that she knew that they possibly needed just in case, right? So it was a nice touch from the significant other reaching out to a stranger. I never spoke to her, complete stranger. And she was just giving her thoughts because she sees him in their dwelling, right? Their home, their family life, right? So I'm sure that maybe their partners are hesitant to reach out to other people on behalf of them and say, listen, can you just watch out for him or something?
Yeah.
Supercharge your construction business with Connecteam. In the fast-paced world of construction, keeping your finger on the pulse is essential. But who has time for the little things that consume most of our day? Upgrade your business management with Connecteam, the ultimate digital toolkit for construction managers and tradespeople. Why switch to Connecteam? Effortlessly track employee clock ins and outs. Ensure your team is aligned with their tasks. Make sure all safety PPE are being addressed and confirmed. Receive real-time updates from the field through digital forms and checklists. No more drowning in manual tasks. Step into the digital era. Connecteam offers a seamless platform to elevate your business management, giving you the freedom to focus on your growth. It's not fiction, it's Connecteam, your go-to platform for 2023 and beyond. Check out Connecteam at www.connecteam.com and on IG at Connecteam app.
For sure, that probably got to that point because they're not to speculate, but maybe they had the conversation and she couldn't,
He's not listening,
quote unquote, not
listening.
talking any sense into him. And so she was concerned about that. But you're right, it is kind of a fine line. You don't want to betray anybody's trust or relationship, but if you feel strongly enough about it, like, who knows? Who knows yourself better than like your closest friends or your spouse or whatever? Like, my wife, I feel, knows who I really am more than I know myself. Because I have blind spots. I think everybody has blind spots with their own strengths and weaknesses. So to have that person or friend or confidant or whatever that, knows you well and kind of keeps you in check, I think is important. Whether it's your inner circle, mastermind, whatever you want to call it, like some group that, can tell you, pick you up when you're down and tell you to give your head a shake when,
Just one thing I wanted to highlight is the fact that, mental health there's no stereotype for it. It's not as if you can have a room full of people and be able to point out
You won't know.
the 10 that are struggling, right?
And sometimes the ones that seem like everything's perfect is actually the worst case.
Do you ever see that video that came out? There was
The soccer, the football.
yeah.
Yep.
Genius. Absolute genius. Have you seen it?
No.
I'm gonna
Please
flip
explain
to you
it.
after. Well, the quick explanation is that there's two gentlemen at a football game, English soccer.
Yeah.
And one is subdued, very reserved, and the other one gregarious, full of energy.
He's a fan. He's a fanatic.
Yeah. And
Okay.
The one who stands up and cheers and like high fives the people behind him or in front of him. And there's multiple games that you see, but always the guy when you're facing it on your left watching the video, always too much reaction from him. And at one point throughout the multiple games that they show that they've gone together, the happy guy turns to him and gives him a team scarf, and it was a great gesture. And then the following, I don't know if it's the following game, you come back and it's the same subdued guy who gets there a little bit early probably, and the seat next to him is empty. But as he sits down, he puts the flag against him, or not the flag, the scarf on the chair, and he sits down. And then there's a message on the bottom that sometimes, and I'm paraphrasing, sometimes you just don't know what mental health looks like, right?
So that reminds me of another story too. I read it in a book. I want to say it was John Maxwell, but he's telling a story about a man. I forget if it was first person or not, but on a train, right? He's reading a newspaper on a subway, whatever. And there's a father sitting next to him, young kids running around, just tearing the place up, yelling, screaming, fighting, rolling all over the floor. And the dad was just like sitting there. And the guy reading the newspaper says, "Are you going to do something about your kids?" He's like, yeah, I'm sorry.
I remember that.
Okay. And so, but does nothing. He's kind of staring into space. And the second time, a few minutes go by, the kids are still tearing the place up. The guy reading the newspaper is like, "You better do something about your kids or I'm going to do something." And the guy goes, "Yeah, I'm sorry. We just got back from the hospital. We found out that their mother passed away." So maybe it was made up. Maybe it was true. I don't know. But same as that, you don't know what other people are going through. And they're not going to offer it up and put a sign on their chest saying, "My wife just died."
And the man just explained to the strangers saying, "I just don't know how to explain it to them."
Yeah. Exactly. So you knew exactly.
Yeah, I know the story.
Yeah. So
there's a story this is true story. My father and his business partner in the first business, masonry company, both mason by trade, one of their laborers, overnight, they went the night before, they were out, finished work, they took everybody out for drinks, and the next morning I'm the one who opened the door to his brother crying uncontrollably, announcing to us that Gaetan, the gentleman, had taken his own life. My father said you could not tell. There was no way you could tell that this individual, this poor individual, was going through such a dark time, and he took his life that night. And it's
shit. I remember we were in university and we were at my buddy's place, and one guy found out that his grandfather died. Old people die; it's not that big of a deal, but whatever. It still affects different people differently. And it was literally like minutes after this guy got off the phone. And we were all sitting there just quiet and serious, just kind of being there for a buddy. Another guy comes in and he's like, "What the fuck's going on? Did somebody just die?"
Oh,
like as a joke. And we were just like 20-something-year-old kids. Like you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, you never know what other people are going through, man. So be compassionate.
That's a constant state on a job site, though.
Yeah. Especially with hundreds of people.
And on LinkedIn or all social media, and it's done in so many different ways. I think I've even seen one with Robin Williams that you just don't know what a person's going through. The message is not only true and accurate and very powerful. Unfortunately, that's just where it stays. People swipe or people hit the like button and move on. There's a huge disconnect as it relates to really understanding mental health, really being open about talking about it, which means that you need to be willing to embrace your vulnerability. And I'll tell you one thing, if you're willing to embrace your vulnerability, the superpowers that come from that will eclipse anything that you've done before. Anything.
And you know what? That's a very good point. And we talked about it before. Like there's a stigma against construction workers, and a lot of people might be afraid to express they're struggling or having an issue or don't know something because somebody's going to think they're an idiot or weak. But I would hazard to guess that way more than like half the people would be accepting and willing to have that conversation.
I feel the same way.
I think much more than
like
half.
even with the stigma of people being like, "Oh, rough, tough construction workers," even if you're like covered in dirt and you're just smoking butts and whatever, there's guys like that who care and will take the time to.
Do you feel that a portion of which would be just people going, "Thank fucking God somebody said something," and because
I feel it too.
Yeah, because they're going. Yeah,
for sure.
That's exactly it. I think if you get into construction, I don't think anyone gets into construction that does not go through it.
So there's
No.
good news for that.
It's a people thing, man. Regardless of industry, stuff happens. But you're right.
There's good news with that, because that type of change doesn't take 51% to happen. You know, that type of change, like world change, you only need, and this, you can look this up online, between 7 and 10% of the whole population.
Really?
Yeah. So imagine if it's still a big ask, and I'm committed, as I trust you both are, to doing what I can to help achieve that. But imagine if we could get 7 to 10% of the industry, and that rule of thumb applied, and we saw a big shift where people go, no, it's not going to work like that anymore. I need to be able to speak what I'm feeling, and I need to have a company who's going to have my back.
Well, what I like about this show is that you're getting a lot of people not necessarily meeting each other, but hearing each other on the show, and they're DMing, and eventually it's leading to text communications, and they're having conversations through text, and then eventually a phone call. So they're having verbal conversations before they even met. But they've heard parts of their story that resonated with them, connected with them, and then they've shared parts of their story to other people, and all of a sudden you got people. So it's like the potential of getting to that 7% is very realistic, just by people. And you didn't meet each other. You haven't been on a job site, complete strangers, other than listening to each other's story on this show, which is a starting point, right? Which I've been told. I've been hearing about it. People have been telling me. I've been connecting. I go, have you guys gotten together and met yet? Nope. I haven't gotten together at all yet. We're planning on getting together for a coffee or something like that. But we talk almost every day. We're communicating through text every day.
Well, that's the power of, I think, social media. And funny.
That's the positive side of it.
Yeah, there is. I think there's not much positive, but that is definitely one. And at the heart of social media, I think it's meant to bring people together. So in some aspects it does. A lot of other ways it drives people apart, but forget that stuff. It connects people. Gianluca, we met through LinkedIn. We're both local. He's from Toronto. I live in Burlington. I used to call my internet friend. I dropped internet now, buddy. You're just my friend. But we have other people we met all over North America.
Yeah.
People message me. I sold a couple copies of the book in UK, which is blows my mind that people all over the world are connecting on these concepts. And when you get a message saying, thank you for posting that, especially about mental health topics, every time I post something, at least one person, I don't get a ton of messages, but one person will message me, say, thank you for posting that. I'm having a hard time.
Going through stuff.
Exactly, and it's validating.
Or they know somebody that's going through stuff.
Yeah. So, and part of my intro, which I didn't get to do, but that's okay. I'm just joking. I wanted to thank you, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, because what you're doing here is fucking amazing.
Thanks, man.
This platform, giving people a voice, showing it's like what we're talking about. It validates people's experiences within the industry, because you have a diverse group of people who come on and tell their story.
Yep.
But I hope also the audience sees it from outside construction, looking in, to get almost a peek behind the curtain of the people who are at, because we're people at the end of the day. We're not resources that are on site that an accountant said, we need 100 guys and gals to build this job. Each one of those, they're people, and they got their own shit to deal with. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
I second
I'm going to hug you before the show's done here.
Anybody can hug me. It's
okay.
Fine.
We're going to do a group hug.
Yeah,
Angelina
totally
too. That's okay. If you're okay with hugs.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's fine.
No, I appreciate that. And that's what I like about this. And I think that has a lot to do with me being in construction for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I got to the point real quickly where I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I'll talk and I'll share and I'll listen to someone's story, and I'll bring anybody on the show. And I won't regarding construction and maybe colors of tools, I might disagree with you, but it'll be done out of love and joke.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what people are going through, I take it serious. I try to make it light. I try to add some humor to it. But I want everybody to know that I am listening, and I'm not just listening for the sake of, there's a camera on me or something like that, and I think, I should be looking this way or that way. I'm genuinely listening to you because I know what you potentially are going through, because I've gone through or I am going through. That's just how
Everybody's
it works.
got a story.
Not because I'm in construction, not because I came from production. It's because I'm a human.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of respect for your book as well. It's just, it goes back to the person. I keep on this show, TCL, half construction, half tradesperson. Everybody's going through shit. So I'm not surprised that we started this, and then I reached out to certain people, and I want to continue reaching out to more people, and nobody has said no.
No,
they're more than willing to sit down and talk about certain things, and they have opened up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I know that it's helping others. So
just
continue doing it.
share, and sorry to interject there too, but just to share another personal anecdote. Now you guys know my whole life story, but the best part,
No, we don't.
The best part of my 30s was the moment, and I remember the moment I realized I'm fucked up. And everybody else is too. And we're all doing our best, in a lot of cases, trying to hide all those issues so people don't see us as weak or vulnerable. And you put this big shield up, but in behind, you're just a toddler crying for your mom. Going back, the whole toddler thing again. And that was probably the most beautiful moment of my life, second to getting married and having kids, was realizing that I have issues. Everybody else does. Let's just put it on the table and do our best with the tools we got, and just try and be happy, man. Try and make other people happy. Spread positivity. Help people out. Anyway, I don't want to start crying on camera here, guys.
That has happened before.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. So I want to thank you guys both, honestly. And if anybody's interested in getting the books, Angelo, your book is still on
Amazon,
Amazon, right? But they can reach out to you as well too.
Sure.
Will they get a signed, like a signed?
Costs extra money. Yeah, it's $2 for that.
You got your book as well too, and Ozzy's like a lot of signatures.
Look at that!
Man.
Wow.
Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that. But reach out to these gentlemen, honestly, because and then you're doing good things with the guild there, right? So,
Brother, I'm.
It's a lot of work, eh? You know, it's a lot of work.
It seems, it is a gargantuan task ahead of me, and it's kicking my ass. I'll be honest with you, it's kicking my ass. But you know what? It's a good thing I'm a crazy fuck too, because I'm not going to let go.
Are you at the point of bringing on more people to help you? That trust?
Not there yet.
Okay.
No. I foresee hopefully Q1, latest Q2 next year, being able to bring one person on. And it starts with one, right? Of
course.
But yeah, just getting exposure and getting people to understand what the community is all about has been. I'm not going to define it as a struggle, but it's a challenge definitely, because it's tied to the famous vulnerability word that I use, because I won't shy away. Whoever's interested, I'm going to tell you, listen, the first thing that you need to be as an individual is you need to realize that you are your best and most valuable investment. Yeah. So if you put yourself in first position, you want to embrace your vulnerability and you want to be surrounded by like-minded people and share and which includes being generous with your wisdom, then the guild is exactly made for those people.
And they can reach you through LinkedIn, right?
Through LinkedIn, Gianluca Pascale, which I trust you're going to put some stuff in the show notes.
Totally been in the
Thank
notes,
you.
yeah,
And
totally
also just splash page for now for the constructorsguild.com.
Just if I can say one more thing,
course you can.
for like 30 seconds, you can leave this in or not. But I'm going to look right at the camera.
Go ahead.
Because shit happens. And if you're going through something now, you're not alone. It might feel like it because when you're in the thick of it, it can be very isolating. And the bad news is nobody's going to ride in on a white horse and save the day unless you work with Tim Peters. I love you, Tim. But people will be there to help you. So if you're going through something, reach out for help, talk to a friend, talk to a loved one, fucking talk to me, put my email in the notes. I don't care.
Yeah.
Talk to Manny, talk to somebody, please. You can do it.
Don't be afraid to. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you as well,
Thanks,
man.
man.
Appreciate
Appreciate
to
it.
meet you.
Likewise.
And nice to have you back, Angelo. And you guys are more than welcome to come back anytime.
I'd love to.
Appreciate
continue
it.
the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Angelina, we're out of here.